Welcome to my channel, where the scariest stories come to life. Before we dive into today's chilling tale, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you never miss a story. Now, let's get into the horror. I always liked living alone. I don't live alone anymore. Mind you, I have a family, and as much as I enjoy that, I do miss living by myself. The scariest experience I've ever had occurred when I rented a house all to myself. The night it happened, I got home from work rather late. I only worked until 6 p.m., but the snow had started falling pretty steadily a few hours before my shift ended. By the time I was ready to leave, the ground was completely covered in at least a foot of snow, and it was still coming down heavily. Visibility was poor. I could barely see more than a couple of feet in front of my car. After scraping the snow off the top, I slowly crept my way home. It was nearly 10 p.m. when I arrived. I was just thankful I didn't have to work the next day. It's probably mildly important to understand the place where I lived. It was a subdivision, but an older one. Years before, many of the houses had been torn down, so now only a few remained on my street. There was only a single street light, maybe 30 feet down the road from my home. While I was driving, I saw someone walking on the street. He was standing right underneath the street lamp. I figured it was just one of my neighbors, so I passed him by, pulled into my driveway, and made myself comfortable. I went inside, took a quick warm shower, wrapped myself in a blanket, and made a cup of tea. I walked into the living room to watch a little TV and hopefully unwind. As I walked in, I happened to glance out the front window. I was surprised to see that same man still standing in the exact spot under the street lamp. The snow was falling really hard, and because of it, I couldn't make out anything about the guy other than the vague shape of his body. I tried not to think too much about it. It must have been someone waiting for a ride or something. I sat down and turned on the TV. I had my cup of tea in hand. It took me a good half hour to finish it, and I decided I wanted another one. As I got up, I suddenly remembered the man under the street lamp. Curiosity got the better of me, and I glanced out the window again. He was still there, still standing in the exact same spot. I was starting to feel rather nervous. I walked to my door and double-checked to make sure it was locked. I couldn't tell if he was watching me or what he was doing. I went back into the kitchen and made another cup of tea. When I returned, I once again glanced out the window. This time I was somewhat relieved to see the man appeared to be gone. I felt like I could finally relax again. I'm not sure how long I sat in my chair watching TV. All I know is that I was finally feeling completely relaxed. I had gotten my mind off the man's shape, but then my thoughts were suddenly drawn back to him. For some reason, I began to feel a nagging suspicion. I didn't understand why at first, until I noticed something in the corner of my eye. I glanced at the side window and felt an immediate shock run through my body. A man was standing silently outside my house, looking in through the window. He was just staring at me. I freaked out. It had been an hour since I last saw him under the light, and I wondered if he had been at that window, silently watching me the entire time. When he realized I had seen him, he moved quickly and smashed the window. I have to say, I'm pretty impressed with how I handled it. I jumped up and sprinted to my bedroom. I grabbed my Louisville Slugger and came rushing back. The man was halfway in through the window, pulling himself in over the broken glass. Since he was vulnerable, I began to wail on him with the bat. He grunted in pain a few times, and I kept smacking him, especially in the shoulder. That seemed to hurt him the most. He fell back out the window, stumbled to his feet, and ran off into the night. I called the police right away, and they rushed over immediately. They ended up catching the guy, which was a huge relief. What wasn't a relief was when they searched around the house and found a meat cleaver lying in the snow just outside the broken window. I'm currently in my late 20s, but at the time of these events, my 8th grade school year had just ended. I was excited that I was going to be able to spend the entire summer with my two closest buddies, and we would be heading into 9th grade together. We didn't really do much other than just hang out, play PS2, shoot some basketball outside, and, of course, message girls from our class on Instant Messenger, which I hope most of you remember. If not, I guess I'm getting way too old. We usually hung out at my house, because my parents were always pretty cool with my friends being there. The way my house was set up, we pretty much had a ton of privacy, which was awesome for teenage boys being idiots together. At the time, my house was located on a pretty quiet street, but my neighborhood was close to the rougher sections of my hometown. Just a short walk away was a corner store that sold cheap soda, chips, and candy. This was obviously a frequent destination for my friends and me. About a week after 8th grade ended, my two buddies were staying the night like they always did. We thought it would be a cool idea to sneak out after my parents went to sleep and walk to the corner store a few blocks away. Of course, not to do anything crazy, just to get that thrill of being out late on our own. Being a foolish teenager, I had no awareness of the danger I was potentially putting myself and my friends in. Around 11 p.m., once my parents had gone to sleep, we snuck out. At first, the thrill of being outside was awesome. That feeling would soon change. When we arrived at the store, we went in with about $20 and planned to spend it on a whole bunch of random snacks. We all split up to grab our own things. I was in the back corner looking at soda when I noticed someone lurking in the opposite corner. The only reason this concerned me was because he was standing still, facing me, not looking at any of the shelves. I pretended I didn't notice him. Who knows, maybe it was just a coincidence. I looked at the soda again, but in the reflection of the cooler, I saw the shadowy figure moving closer, still watching me. I quickly grabbed a 2-liter bottle and rushed to find my friends. I darted away, and when I looked back, the figure was standing right where I had been just moments ago, still facing me. I was freaked out but didn't want to let my friends know. I also want to add that there was nobody else in the store besides us, the cashier, and this person, whoever they were. We grabbed our stuff and checked out quickly. I was trying to be fast, but my friends were being stupid and loud, maybe trying to show off. Honestly, it was freaking me out more. We started the several-block walk home. I was moving fast. Eventually, my friend stopped and asked what my problem was. I told them what happened in the store, and they seemed pretty rattled too. We picked up the pace. From there, my house was only about 100 feet away when I noticed the person from the store was now running full speed up the hill, right at us. We ran as fast as we could. Luckily, the lunatic was still a good distance away. We rushed into the front door and, for some reason, still tried to be quiet so we wouldn't wake my parents. We turned and locked the door and made sure all the lights were off. The person reached the door and started banging, angrily. That's when I gave in to logic and woke my parents, who immediately called the police. I tried yelling through the door that we had called the cops, but the person didn't seem to care. He kept trying to force the door open, still banging. Then he grabbed a decorative stone from our yard and shattered the window next to the front door. That's when I finally got a good look at him. He tried to climb through the broken glass, and as he did, his hood fell off. He had dirty blonde hair, was clean-shaven, and expressionless. He honestly looked like a completely normal guy. He was halfway through the window when my dad came out with a bat and started swinging at his face. Before there could be much of a struggle, though, we saw the flashing lights and heard the sirens. The cops jumped out of their car, screaming, and pulled the man out of the window. It was the most intense thing I've ever seen with my own eyes. The man was obviously arrested. Apparently, he had no criminal record and no history of drug or alcohol abuse. When the police questioned him, he said, honestly, I was a bit bored. I just felt like being a little bit evil tonight. We still have no idea what his real intentions were, but we feel incredibly lucky we came out of it physically unharmed. Mentally? I still think about that night, over a decade later. I used to stay up for hours imagining what would have happened if we hadn't been ahead of him, if he'd caught us. I also worried he might return one night when we least expected it. It just goes to show that even the most harmless decision can sometimes lead to consequences that haunt you for years. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to give the video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. See you in the next one.